Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot. Oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girls. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here's your host, paranormal researcher Patricia Baker, on the one, the only Supernatural Girls.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girls. I'm your host, Patricia Baker. I'm here with my co-host all the way from Tucson. PK, how are you tonight?
Absolutely fabulous.
Oh, good.
The sun is still out. I just can't wait.
Wait for what is the question? The world.
God, I tell you, to feel like being put out a spit. Waiting for it to start cranking around.
Exactly. Well, we have a great show tonight. We're going to get to our guest in a couple of minutes. He is an amazing podcaster, and he knows the art of the story. So
yes, he does.
Him soon. But before we do, we've got a crazy world out there that's getting worse. What's going on?
Well, let's just talk about this crazy world that we happen to be in right now. This month is a preview of next year, folks. So hang on to the side of the chair and ride the waves. I'm not going to say it's going to be great. It's not going to be horrible, depending on what year you're going into. This month previews it next year, as they say. And for those that are going into different years, every month of this year, if you're going into a 1 year, you'll be previewing that if you're going into it too. So when we take a look at it, if you're going into a 1 year, it's all about fresh starts and new beginnings. There's hope there. Sounds good, doesn't it?
It does.
And if you're going into a 2 year, it's about partnerships, relationships, being overly sensitive, which could also make you insensitive. So remember, the teeter-totter goes, both sides get to go up and down. The 3 year is all about workload, but it's about creativity, communications, and there's a luck factor that goes with 3. So enjoy working with that and say the things you need to say, but don't be a little rambunctious with how some things come out. If you're in a 4 year, it's going to be about details, work-related issues. Perfect time to get a good physical, get a good checkup, that type of thing. If you're in a 5 year, it's going to be about major changes. And again, it has a luck factor to it. And the major changes that are going on, it's going to give you opportunity to really feel good, do something different. You know, if you've never decided you like the color red, all of a sudden you're going to want to wear it. So you're going to be pulling out things that aren't the norm.
Right.
If you're going into a 6 year, it's all about family type responsibilities, wanting things to be perfect. But it also tends to make a person a bit of a meddler. So allow it to be as perfect it can be, not what you think it should be.
Okay. Good advice.
It might save your backside.
Yeah.
Where you can still sit down when the year's over.
Exactly.
And if you're in a 7 year, it's going to deal with your finances, but it has a lot to do with setting goals, achieving things that you really want to, lay out the things that you really want to work towards. 7 year makes you thoughtful. You think a lot. You put things in order. So that part's good. But I will tell you, you're going to have difficulty sleeping anytime we're in a 7 month, day, or year. We have difficulty sleeping. The Princess and the Pea, you're positive there's this big boulder in your bed and it'll be a little tiny pea. But it is as it is. If you're going into an 8 year, it's about your finances and it's about putting things together and about what you want to do and being in control. Being chairman of the board, you're going to do it your way. And if you have to use a chair and a whip to make it happen, you're going to do it your way. It's just part and parcel of it. But it's also a good money-making time.
Oh.
And then we come to the 9 year, and it's all about what we do for everybody else. It's about the world at large, and it's about making things more user-friendly. People, places, and things. It's about making their world better, which in turn will make your world better. So it's more spiritual, the 7 and 9, but the rest of it, start building, lead up to what you want. You'll be surprised the good things that can come out of the 9 year, because it allows you to get rid of people, places, and things that no longer fit in your world. Take advantage of it. And it doesn't become painful because it's kind of like an automatic thing. So from that standpoint, I think it has a lot to offer us. And that's really the best that's to come. And I put something more on my Facebook page if anybody wants to take a look at that.
Yes.
It will give more details about everything.
If anybody wants their own reading and more in depth about what year you're in, as well as what you can expect to come about for you in that year, then go to patriciakirkman.com and contact PK, see what you can work out for an appointment. It's well worth it. It's just so nuts out there. I never thought I would see the day when an
I didn't either, honey.
turned down help for a devastated area. But anyways, we are now going to move over to the stuff we love, the paranormal, and
exactly
incredible podcaster, storyteller. Oh my goodness. He was doing this even before we were.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? Yeah. So let me tell him.
He's the leader.
He's the leader of the pack.
That's
here.
right. Definitely.
Jim Harold. He is one of the most trusted voices in paranormal podcasts, captivating audiences with his hit shows like the Paranormal Podcast, the longest running podcast of its kind, and Jim Harold's Campfire, which have been downloaded over 65 million times. That's just incredible. Known for his kind demeanor with storytellers and his unique perspective, Jim combines a professional broadcasting background with a lifelong passion for the supernatural to create some of the most compelling shows in the genre today. Jim is also the author of the popular Campfire book series, and that's with several titles reaching #1 in the supernatural category on Kindle. Jim continues to evolve and keeps things fresh, delivering spooky content from real people and subject experts that is as intriguing as ever. He lives in Ohio, where his podcast from the Spooky Studio, and he loves what he does and continues to be inspired by his loyal audience. And here we are, Spooky October, our #1 guest, Jim.
Yes.
Hi, hello. Happy Halloween,
Jim.
happy October. Thank you for welcoming me to the show today.
Great.
It's our delight.
Here.
Our delight.
Yes. What a long history you've had ahead of the game. You really saw this coming, huh?
I didn't see it coming at all. I actually, I had gone to school and graduated in the early 90s with a broadcasting background in school. And like so many people, you know, back in the day, it was really before the internet got kicked off in any kind of major way. And they said, you know, you go to a radio station or TV station and get a job doing anything, sweeping the floors. That's how you would break into the business. So after I got my nice communication degree, I went and worked as a sales assistant because it was a job at a radio station. And then lo and behold, I fell into advertising sales and woke up about 12 years later and said, wait a minute, you know, this whole idea of me doing something in front of the mic or in front of the camera, that's kind of dead because I'm married. I've got 2 kids. I've got a mortgage. I can't quit and move to Paducah. And that was 2005. And I heard about this thing called podcasting. And it was brand new. Very few people knew what it was except for kind of techno nerds like myself. And I said, you know what? I love the paranormal, you know, going back to Leonard Nimoy in the 1970s when I was a little kid, watching that growing up in elementary school. And then went on to Unsolved Mysteries, started reading a lot of books. And I said, you know what? Maybe I'll just do a paranormal podcast. And to give you an idea of how early it was, there were some podcasts at the time on the subject. But I'm like, well, you know what would be a good name? And I'm like, paranormal podcast. Well, the Paranormal Podcast, of course. And I thought for sure somebody had that, which they did not. So that's how early it was. And we've gone from, there being just a handful of shows then to now there's probably thousands of paranormal podcasts. It's one of the most popular genres, that and true crime, probably in all of podcasting. But I had no idea. I thought I'm doing this as a hobby to kind of scratch that broadcasting itch. And also because I'm fascinated by this stuff, and won't it be cool to talk to these people about this area of common interest? And I was totally blindsided by the fact that, it was going to become my full-time job, which it did a dozen years ago. And very thankful to my audience for all their support.
It's tremendous, really, what you've accomplished. Yeah.
Thank you.
We're inspired by what you're doing and what you've done. And you've got this new book out.
Yes. Here I have it. Try to get it where it doesn't. I'm not like those hand models on TV. They do. There. Well, that's the first one, but this one looks very similar. Just has a 6 on the front. I'm not like one of those great TV hand models. They know exactly how to hold something, so it wouldn't obscure. I would never make it as a hand model.
But this is wonderful. So, storytelling is so powerful, and you're telling true stories in this book, true ghost stories.
Mm-hmm.
But, stories have an effect on us. They really can change our consciousness. They can change the way we think about things. And so I always love having storytellers on the show because there's a lot of power in this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun, too. I can see everybody.
Definitely.
Copy of this book that you've just put out, which is wonderful, and sitting by a fire, reading the book out loud on Halloween it's just a wonderful way to bring the family together and scare them to death. But
all in one fell swoop. Yeah,
that's right.
Though, who I have to thank for this are my storytellers that come on my show, Jim Harold's Campfire, because that's probably my most popular show, and that show is basically where people call in with their real life stories. So this is, as you said, this is the 6th book, but it only really covers maybe the first 6 years of the show. All of the books. I probably have enough. If I stopped today, I could still probably do 5 more books, because what we do is we take 2 or 3 years and we kind of pick out some of our favorite stories and we just clean up the grammar a little bit, but we don't change the details. And just put them together. And it is true ghost stories and more. There's a lot of kind of tweener stories in there, ones that I call head scratchers, things that don't quite make sense. It's kind of like, what is that? Because it's not exactly a ghost, but it's not exactly normal, So really the storytellers are the ones that deserve the credit. And I'm very honored that people come on the show and share their personal stories.
Yeah, it's powerful to do that. And it's a time in life when people are more accepting of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think even more so, this has been done for years. The great Coast to Coast AM did Ghost to Ghost with Art Bell. Right. So this is, telling stories around a campfire, virtual or real, is, as long as the oral language. So it's not a new idea. But I would say even in this particular show, Jim Harold's Campfire, started in 2009. And I would say even in the last 15 years, people have become more accepting of sharing these kind of stories. And, I think we're seeing something now where, I think it's been okay for a while to share your ghost story. It's been a little more acceptable with all the TV shows and everything. I think now we're starting to get to the point where some of maybe the UFO stories are starting to become more acceptable because more and more has come out. The government says that they're real. And if whistleblowers are to be believed, the government knows a lot more than they're telling us. Absolutely. But I think that's starting to become a next area where people are starting to feel a little more comfortable saying, yeah, I saw something. Because I think for a long time, if you say you saw a ghost, almost everybody's family has a ghost story. But if you say you saw a UFO, the people might think, I don't know about that guy.
Exactly.
Unfortunately. That's the truth. Yep.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, because it's, the government, I think, has done a great job with disinformation.
Oh, yeah.
And also those reputations who did have the courage to come forward long ago.
Right.
But with cell phones now, they can't stop it. It's like cell phones on, there's a light in the sky, it's around the world. They can't control it anymore. So it's changed world. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate the people still coming forward that are calling your show and telling their story. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I always tell people when they call into the show, thanks for calling in, because if you don't call in, there is no show. They kind of make it possible, because the Paranormal Podcast, which is still running, as far as I know, I will be corrected if I'm wrong, the longest running podcast of its type. There's people who started like a couple months after me, still going, but as far as I know, it's the longest one that's continuously running. But the point is, that's more interviews with authors and experts, and I've interviewed, a wide range of people. If you're talking about ghostly stuff, I've had Amy Bruni on, I've had Steve Gonzalez on. I've had a wide range of the late, great Brad Steiger, who wrote many books on the supernatural. I had him as a guest multiple times. The great Rosemary Ellen Guiley, who was a guest many times on the shows. Yep. And I love doing that show. But I think if I had to pick, I would almost pick Jim Harold's Campfire, because it's just talking to everyday people about their experiences. And maybe they're not steeped in the theories, and maybe they don't know, the history of these different phenomena, but they know what they saw. And I think it's really cool to get to kind of help facilitate sharing their story.
That's important. I think so. Great.
Yeah. So for you, what scares you?
I do think there's true evil in the world. Now, I've done for some of my shows quite a few interviews with some of my New Age friends, and, they have great wisdom and impart, but sometimes people will say something like, well, Jim, there is no evil, there's just a lower vibration. And in my view, that's totally their opinion, and that's okay. I think sometimes in society these days, we've lost the ability to agree to disagree. But what I would say is that basically it's a situation where it's kind of something where we're in a situation where, and I'm just turning up my mic a little bit because I understand it's a little low.
Yes, it's better now.
Very good. Well, anyway, hats off to your producer for pointing that out. So anyhow,
she's great.
The point being that I can agree to disagree. However, I will say this: I think evil is real. I think evil is very real, and it is present. And I guess true evil frightens me. The other thing that frightens me or kind of bugs me or bothers me, and I'm not saying it's not true, but I'm saying that if it's true, I'm disturbed by it, is many of my ghost hunting friends and paranormal investigator friends, which I'm not. I'm very clear I'm not. I'm just behind the mic. They'll say something like, they're stuck souls and those kind of things. Maybe somebody who died under tragic situations and died very suddenly. And to me, that's extremely disturbing, because I would hate to think that you're stuck simply because you died in a tragic or sudden manner through no fault of your own. Because I like to think, eventually the universe is just. And I would hate to think that somebody is stuck to some kind of eternal torment because, they got hit by a car, I guess. So anyhow, those are the things that kind of scare, or in the latter case, bother me. Right.
So my biggest fear, I guess, in the paranormal world are skinwalkers.
Yeah. Well, that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. Because what I see with them is that they can actually walk between the worlds. They're not owned by either one. So very difficult energy to navigate. And I've heard some terrible stories about people who've encountered skinwalkers. What have you heard?
Well, I mean, that is a frightening thing. And one of the most frightening things, to be honest with you, is this hitchhiker effect. Are you familiar with the hitchhiker effect?
Absolutely.
Yeah, this idea that people who worked at Skinwalker Ranch and so forth, and studied UFOs and those kind of things, that paranormal activity would follow them home.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
I heard that that's actually what happened to Mr. Bigelow.
Yeah.
That something followed him home, and that's one of the reasons. I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that was one of the reasons he decided to sell the ranch.
Well, I think that would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think that would do it.
I don't want anything following me.
I don't know if you've gotten to read the new Luis Elizondo book yet, but he talked about kind of course, being the whistleblower who was kind of the head of ATIP and left the government. So anyway, the point being that he said even in his capacity, he had things and orbs and things following him home in his house.
Okay.
So to me, that kind of brings up the question, if we're talking about UFOs, and I know that's not necessarily the topic tonight, but if you're talking about UFOs, it's a situation where I came from kind of like the Stanton Friedman kind of point of view. UFOs were machines piloted by aliens. But a lot of this stuff makes you think, are they? Is there something else going on? Are they crypto-terrestrials from down below? I know some Harvard researchers lately have been looking at that question, and it kind of caused quite a kerfluffle this summer when they came out in a scholarly journal and suggested it should be looked into more. They got a little bit of pushback from the mainstream, I think.
Yeah.
Are they around us right now, and do we not know? So, I mean, that's the thing, doing these shows for almost 20 years now. People say, well, what did you learn? Well, what I think I've learned is this, and it's encapsulated in this quote that has been around for way before I was around, but I think it really encapsulates it very well.
Bless you.
And I'll probably won't get it exact, but the gist is this. Not only is the universe stranger than you imagine, the universe is stranger than you can imagine.
Oh, I like that.
And I think that's true. I think it's true, though. I think there's so much going on that we don't understand.
Yes.
That I agree with.
Yeah, very true.
Mm-hmm.
It is a bit confusing, I think, for us. And we know that information continues to be withheld. And certainly we agree with you that evil is real. It does exist. Mm-hmm. And actually, you start off in your book, isn't it your first story?
The devil is real.
Yes, that's the first story.
I'd be glad to share it with you if you'd like me to.
Yes,
please, definitely.
So this is from Mariah from Pennsylvania. She was a caller to the show, and she said that she's always used Ouija boards since she was a little child. Mm-hmm. And she says, some people frown on it, but hey, they've always interested her. She started way back when she was a young girl with her friend Molly years ago. They would play it every single night over the summer. Whether it was at Molly's house or Mariah's house, they would be playing with the Ouija board. So over time, they kept getting this spirit who would come through, Gail. It was the same spirit every time. And at the time, it seemed innocent. Nothing was weird aside from the fact that she thought she was talking to the dead. So she had heard, and I don't know if this is true, but she had heard some speculation that putting the Ouija board on the floor is somehow disrespectful. So this particular evening, they propped the board up on a broken, unplugged guitar amplifier. So remember, it's a broken, unplugged guitar amplifier. And not much was happening, but then as they're playing with the Ouija board, the planchette stops and things get eerily quiet. Then, by itself, neither Mariah or Molly were touching it. The unplugged amp clicked on and started making sounds like an old radio tuner, like... I come complete with sound effects.
That's great.
You do it well.
Anyway, they were taken aback by the sound. This amp's broken. It's unplugged. What's going on? Suddenly, they hear this deep southern voice of a man who sounded like a preacher, talking like a preacher would. And he said, "The devil is real."
Oh.
And then the amp audibly clicked off by itself. She said she never ran so quickly in her life, and her and Molly were running over each other to get out of that room. Now, she said some might question her judgment, but she went right back to the Ouija board after and still plays with it now. Still doesn't know what happened that night, though.
Oh, my goodness.
Oof. Gutsy little gal.
Yeah, more guts than me. I'm kind of like, if you remember that old movie, The Ghost and Mr. Chicken.
Yes.
That would be me.
I represent that.
Well, all of these ghost stories are, I think, a lot of them are very interesting, but they open a doorway for so many people to the other side and to another world where the dead actually live on. And some of them are here and don't get to cross over for whatever reason. So,
yeah, I absolutely believe in the afterlife. And even though I believe that there are other things at play sometimes, I am a big believer in the afterlife. I think it's the most fascinating aspect of the paranormal simply because, not everybody will necessarily see a Bigfoot. Not everybody will see a UFO. But eventually, hopefully many, many years from now, we have to cross that boundary, even if we believe we live on, which I do believe.
Yeah.
We have to cross that boundary. So it's the most universal experience other than birth is death. So it's something that really, whether you're a hardcore atheist and you think this is all crazy stuff, or you're the biggest believer, you're still going to go through that process. So it is the ultimate question. And it's funny because people will say, well, does this you asked me what was the thing that frightened me the most. Actually, all of this has kind of reassured me that there's more to life than just what you can weigh on a scale and measure in a test tube. And I always did believe that on some level. I mean, I always did believe in things like a creator and the afterlife and so forth. But I believe in it more now than I did when I started the shows. Now, I do think it's not as easily categorized maybe as I used to think it is, or it's as easily explained or put in certain boxes.
yes.
But the fact that more than just material stuff exists, I'm more convinced than ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely.
One thing on the shows that really fascinates me is when we get into the topic of time slips. Would you like to hear a time slip story?
Yes, we love time slips. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good one. This is a good one. Well, this is, again, a caller talking about a story when she was a young girl. It was Jennifer from Idaho, and this was the early 80s. And they lived in a smallish town in Idaho. And her friend Connie would go on different little adventures. As you know, it was a different time. A lot of times, there were no cell phones. So kids would go out in the morning and say, see you at dinner time, Mom,
It wasn't world.
Different time, different place.
Anyway,
she and her friend said, hey, we're going to go down to the lake, which 10 years old. I don't know if I let my kids go to the lake by themselves. But anyway, they were going to the lake. So it was a couple miles away down the railroad tracks. There were some old abandoned railroad tracks. And they said, we're going to go. And very important to this story, the railroad track that led to their little area where they lived into the lake was a straight shot. There were no tracks that went off on another track. It was one straight shot, one way in, one way out. So anyway, they start to walk down to the lake, down these railroad tracks. And after a while, maybe a mile, I don't know, they come to a clearing. And there's a bunch of houses. And there's probably a woman, I'm guessing from her description, 60-ish or something, or maybe 65 or something, putting out clothes on the clothesline. And she has what, used to be referred to as a house dress. Like I remember my grandma used to wear a house dress.
I remember wearing them.
So anyhow, the woman started talking to them, and she was very, very nice. And she had a raspberry bush there. And said, hey, you girls, do you want some raspberries? And they're like, sure. So they kind of stick out their shirts like basket style, and the one puts the raspberries in. And Jennifer said later, her parents probably weren't happy with the stains in her shirt. So they ate some raspberries, continued talking to her, and said their goodbyes and went on to the lake, had a good day. they headed back. When they headed back, there were woods, and there were woods, and there were woods. There was no clearing. There were no houses. There was no woman, no clothesline, and no raspberry bush. So they go back home, and they're kind of like puzzled. What in the world's going on? So a couple of days later, Jennifer's talking to her grandma, and she's like, Grandma, let me tell you this thing that happened. She tells her what happened. She's like, are there houses there? Did I miss something? She said, well, there were houses there in the 1920s before the railroad came through. Now, Jennifer, to her credit, she, she wanted to check this out before she called in. So she talked to her friend Connie as adults. And she said, Connie, I remember this story from the 80s when we were kids. I'm going to run the details by you. You tell me, am I misremembering? Is this something I dreamed? Did I see it on TV? I mean, I swear this happened to us. And every detail, Connie checked the box and said, yep, that's what happened. That's what happened. That's what happened. That's what happened. And I've heard other stories like this too. And I believe that sometimes the conditions are just right that we can step back in time. And there's a famous case, I think, in Liverpool where people walked out and saw like a street from the 50s or something. I've had people tell me stories. I had one woman who was out playing with her friends, and they saw this old house and a little boy with knee pants. And it was a distance, but the boy saw them, and the group saw the boy in this old-looking house, and the woman came out, and she was kind of like in old clothing, and pulled the boy back inside. A week later, they went to the same area. There was the old foundation of a house, but there was no house. So, I mean, to me, I think these things are possible. I don't think it happens every day necessarily. No. But I do think if the conditions are right, because, I mean, scientists say, we believe time is linear. Yes. But in actuality, it's not. I've heard people talk about Mike Ricksecker, for example, talking about the stacked time theory. Right. Or the idea, it's kind of like that, I always get the title of that movie wrong, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, or whatever it was called. Yeah. But the idea is that it's all happening right now, but we're just accessing it as we're accessing it. But everything that ever happened to us and everything that is going to happen to us is happening right now, which doesn't make any sense to me. But I mean, and I've heard somebody else, there's this one physicist I could remember, or philosopher, I don't know. I wish I could remember his name. It's like a book. And if you take the pages from if I read this book in a row, I'm experiencing it in a linear mode. If I rip the pages out and throw it on the floor, they all exist at the same time. I'm reading this book. All these pages are there, but I'm just accessing the page that I'm looking at right now. It really, when you get into it, it's really mind-bending stuff.
It really is. And it's fascinating to hear these stories. And now there are time slips, but there's also people who disappear into other realities and never make it back.
Well, let me tell you, I've got a story about that one and this is not in this book, but it's in one of the books. I think it might be the second one. This is my favorite story we've ever had on the show. And I think it might be someone who narrowly missed exactly what you're describing. It's called, I have probably told this story 500 times. I tell it on every show.
It's got to be a good one.
Well, it is, I think. So anyway, and it's got a couple little interesting wrinkles to it that most stories I do don't have. So first of all, the person's name is T.I. She lives in Michigan, but every summer she would go to this kind of campground and spend a couple of weeks with her family and things over the summer. Grown-up campground, I guess. I don't know if they have the cabins or people have trailers and stuff. So this one particular, and it's up in Wisconsin. So this one particular night, she and a male friend went to see a band about an hour away. They're both musicians. So they went to see this band. It was at a bar. They closed the place down 2:00 or so. They even went backstage, and because they were fellow musicians, they were talking shop. And they left about 2:30 or something like that in the morning. And they're about an hour away from the campground, and this is like rural 2-lane roads, no street lights, no light pollution. It's like it is dark. So anyway, they're driving along. It's T.I. and her friend Bob. And they get a little ways down the road, and T.I.'s like, Bob, I've got to go to the restroom. And he basically said, well, pull up a tree. I don't know what to tell you. And she said, no, just drive fast. And they go along another 15 minutes or so, and then they see this bar. And the joint's jumping. Lights are on, thump, thump, thump of music. There's cars in the parking lot, multiple cars. I'm like, that shouldn't be open, but hey, let's not look a gift horse in the mouth. And they pull in, and Bob says, oh, I'm so glad we came here because there's like kind of a notable mural on the wall, an Old West mural. I've heard about it. I've never seen it. This is great because we'll finally, I'll finally get to see this. So they go in. T.I. goes to the restroom. I think Bob gets a couple soft drinks from the bar. They're sitting there. There's an old Wurlitzer kind of jukebox, like the real thing, with the vinyl and the whole thing, not kind of the make-believe ones now. Everybody's acting kind of weird. They're kind of like smiling. They're kind of spacey. And they're kind of looking, these people are kind of weird. And then this guy walks up to T.I. and he's put Chubby Checkers' Let's Twist Again on the jukebox. And he smiles at T.I., and he has a mouthful of rotten teeth, and he said, want to dance? And T.I. used a cane, so she showed the cane. And she said saved by the cane again. That's her words, not mine. And he ended up walking away. And then they started looking at the mural, and they noticed something. T.I. noticed it first. Everybody in the mural was a real person in the bar. Oh, there were some guys playing cards in the mural, and the same guys were over by a pool table in the corner. There was a woman in the mural and what they used to call back in the day a dance hall girl, and she was standing on the bar there, obviously not dressed up like a dance hall girl, but the same person. And it went on and on and on. And they went and they asked the bartender, said, are you guys in the mural? And they just smiled and didn't say anything. And it was just a weird vibe. And the guy started playing Let's Twist Again for a second time. And then he went on to play it a third time, which was really kind of odd. Twice, maybe you like a song. 3 times really bizarre. And they keep looking at this mural and they notice something they didn't know before. And it's like an Old West saloon, right? It's like, there's a bar, there's a bartender, dance hall girl, guys playing cards. That's the scene. And there's swinging doors. Remember back in the old Westerns when the guy come in and say, I want to see Bart. I want to have a showdown, right?
Sure.
Well, howdy, Pilgrim. But anyway, so basically, there were swinging doors. But there was something in the swinging doors in the picture that they didn't notice at first because it wasn't there, but now it was. There seemed to be kind of 2 misty columns. One was shorter, one was taller. I'm like, we didn't notice that before. They looked away, they looked back, and it started to look like an old Polaroid picture that was developing in. And one looked like a man and one looked like a woman. And they looked away and they were talking some more and looked back, and T.I.'s like, oh my gosh, the woman has curly hair. I have curly hair. The woman has cowboy boots. I have cowboy boots. Oh my God, the woman has a cane. I have a cane. At that point, they decide, we're getting out of there, okay? And then when they started to leave, all the people were going, come back, come back, come back. T.I. says they closed the door. Everything went stone cold dark, like it had never been open. The doors closed. All the lights that were on are off. That's it. So anyhow, you would think that's the end of the story, but it's not. They get ready to leave. They get into their car and they notice they have the only car in the lot. Uh-oh. Now, if that were me, I would never come back again. Like I said, goes to Mr. Chicken, right?
Yeah.
Well, T.I.'s made of stronger stuff. So she said, I'm going back. And I think she took her sister maybe with her, because everybody's like, you guys just imagine it, blah, 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 da, da, da. And they went back a couple nights later. Now, she wasn't brave enough to go at 3 o'clock in the morning. She went like 8 o'clock at night or something. She went in, she went and looked. They had a jukebox, but it was a CD jukebox. Okay. It was not the old Wurlitzer. It was a CD jukebox. I think this might have happened early 2000s. That would have been the thing that they would have had time. No Chubby Checker. No Let's Twist Again. She goes to the bar. She talks to the bartender. It's a younger woman, probably in her 20s. And she's talking to her. She's like, yeah, we were in here the other night. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, going into Sunday. The woman's like, we closed up at midnight that night. But I was here. There's this bartender, big, young, strapping guy, good-looking guy. It's like, there's nobody who attends bar like that. The only people that attend bar here are me and my elderly father. Mm-hmm. And then she left the Roadhouse Saloon. Now, she used to say, I've never been back, but I think she actually did end up going back, because here's the thing. There's a few things to this that are really important to know. One, the place is absolutely real.
Yeah.
The mural is real. I did a video on YouTube, because what we did was, I think I talked to her back in 2011 or 2012 the first time. Mm-hmm. But we kept in touch, and I thought it was such a compelling story that in 2019, I drove up to Michigan, because I'm in Ohio, and put the football rivalries aside, and basically interviewed her in person and did a video on it. And the great cryptozoologist Chad Lewis actually went to the place and took pictures of the mural. And the mural exists. The place is real. I don't know its status now. I called it pre-pandemic 2019. I tried to get somebody interviewed and nobody returned my calls, but they were answering their phone. It's a real place, real kind of restaurant bar with a real mural. Although the Misty figures and the swinging doors aren't there now. So, and T.I., I don't want to betray confidences, but she worked in a very respected profession, retired, very smart, very believable. I sat in her house and looked her in the eye as she told her story, and I believe her. Now, what does that mean? And what is it? Your guess is as good as mine, but to your point, Patricia, the idea that maybe people get trapped, that's it's a terrifying thought.
It is a terrifying thought. And certainly David Paulides has done a lot of work exposing a lot around the people disappearing in parks and the young disappearing around universities. And it is really scary. I mean, what is happening where these people like Stacey Ann Aris was horseback riding on a horseback riding trip out west and goes to take pictures at the lake, and then an older person is in the group. He's watching her, and suddenly she's gone, and the only thing they ever find is a lens cap.
Right.
So it's very frightening that people do disappear and go somewhere that we don't know, we haven't mapped, we have no idea about. But there's a lot going on there, and I do believe also the government has knowledge of some of it. And they're not sharing that either. But there's can be real danger in the woods, in these boulder fields. They always talk about if everything just goes quiet around you, then something's wrong. You're about to step into another.
Yeah, it makes me not to want to go hiking on any nature trails.
With you. No hiking for me.
So I'll second that.
Yeah. But anyways, in terms of some of your other, obviously you have books and books of ghost stories, which is exciting. Mm-hmm. But there's happy stories too about ghosts where ghosts can help people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one that's not in this book, but I do love it. And it actually has a lot in common with a couple of the stories we've already covered. But there was a young woman this was up in New England somewhere, and this was in the 80s. Late 80s. So it was a case where, no cell phones, right? So she was taking some night classes at a place about an hour from her house. So anyway, she broke down on the freeway. You know, it's 20 degrees or whatever it is. She said she really wasn't dressed for the weather. But, you know, at that time with no cell phones or anything, you're kind of a sitting duck. Do you sit there and hope the person that comes by is not a killer, or do you, or you're just stranded or whatever? I mean, I've been in a car, you know, back in the day with my family that we had problems. And if at that point you didn't have a CB radio, you were just at the mercy of flagging somebody down. It was a different people. The young folk don't understand. So anyway, this woman was stranded, and she said, you know what? I'm a doer. I'm an action taker. I'm not just going to sit here. So as many times with freeways, you know, they run parallel to like old 2-lane roads. And it was kind of the case here. And she looked down over the embankment and she saw a service station. She's like, oh, thank God I'm saved. This is fantastic. So she kind of crawls down the embankment, and she said the shoes weren't appropriate or anything, but she made it through. So anyway, she goes down, and the guy, it's like 7:55 at night, and it's pitch black dark because it's winter. And she tells him the situation, and he points at the clock. Oh, we close at 8. Maybe the owner can help you. He lives next door. And then the owner seems to almost appear from nowhere. She said she didn't even see him come in. It was just like he was there. Nice man. And he said, sure, I'll go up and look at your car. And he said, well, I could fix it, but I can't fix it tonight. But what I could do is I can tow you to a place nearer your home. And she said, well, boy, that would be nice. Sure. What place do you use? And he gave me a place. So anyway, he drives, you know, I don't know, 40 minutes and drops her off. Takes the car, and then he tows the car and takes her with him, and then takes her home. Doesn't even ask about payment. And she asks him, she says, oh, it'll be $20 or whatever. She writes him a check. And it was kind of odd because he said, tell your parents everything is going to be okay with you. Everything is going to be fine. Kind of an odd thing to do. But the guy was so nice. He went out of his way. A lot of people wouldn't have done that, you know. And she just couldn't get over what a kind, he was an older gentleman, but just a kind man. So anyway, she gets her car fixed. That's all taken care of. It's a couple days later. She's with her family. They're going on a shopping trip. And she said, let's take a little detour. I want to show you that service station where the guy helped me. He was so nice. What a gentleman. So they take the detour, and there's a service station there, but it looks like it's been closed for about 15 years. It was totally boarded up.
Oh, wow. Surprise.
What's that all about? And again, you know, the thing that's remarkable about Campfire, I mean, I had a woman today tell me about an encounter with a 12-foot tall shadow person. It's amazing to me, some of the encounters that people have, but they seem to me, for the most part, the vast majority, seem very sincere. They're not making it up. Many times people will say something like this: that's the only thing that's happened to me. But boy, it is weird.
Yeah.
And I think
it says also, a lot.
Yeah, I had said, you know, I said at the beginning that maybe Leonard Nimoy led me to this, but I also think some family stories led me to this. There are a couple. First of all, my family is very working class, originally from West Virginia. They moved to Ohio, and that's where I was born and raised, in the Cleveland area. But very salt of the earth, very working class. They weren't into pyramid power or getting in touch with the oneness of the universe. But not that there's anything wrong with that. Mm-hmm. But they were very, you know, matter-of-fact people. And one story my dad tells me that I love, this is probably about 1960. And he had an apartment with my uncle. And it was over a bar. So anyway, one night they're both asleep. Small, one way in, one way out, small apartment. Dad wakes up and sees this old man laughing at him. And he's, you know, he was a football player, strong guy. Boom! Tries to hit him, nothing. My uncle's like, you're crazy, you're imagining things, blah, 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 da, da, da. And he said, okay, he was here. 2 weeks later, my dad wakes up, my uncle is screaming, "Get out of here, who are you?" And he was 6'2" and 220, and he swung at him, there was nothing there.
Nothing there.
And both of them, my dad's 88, he still tells the same story today. My uncle, bless his soul, until he passed about 11 years ago, he told exactly the same story. And they didn't make stuff up like that. It happened.
That's great.
Amazing, isn't it? God.
Yeah. So it's right there in your family. I love it. And you're right. I think everybody has a family ghost story somewhere or some kind of encounter that they can share. And it makes Halloween so much more interesting together.
Oh, yes.
No, it does. It's one of the best parts. And I tell people, if you don't do anything else, share your stories. It doesn't have to be on my show. I'd be honored if it was on my show. But share your stories with your family, with your friends, because that's how you live on. And it's great to share these great spooky stories.
Yeah, it's really important. You know, people have said that the reason they come to this show, they listen to what our guests have to say, is because it helps them to get away from the reality of this world.
Mhm.
It's so crazy right now. People are hurting big time right now. It's indescribable what's going on. Quite honestly, I can't even find the words. But that's what people have been saying. That's why we come to your show, because it's not the everyday stuff that has been so troublesome.
True.
It's a way to understand the world from a different perspective and to hear these unusual stories and just leave the rest behind.
I agree. The paranormal is for everybody. All are welcome. And I always enjoy sharing stories and talking with great people on my shows. It's a privilege to do it, and it's been a privilege to be here.
Well, we
our
love
delight
here and hearing your wonderful stories. And again, we want to encourage people to buy your new book, True Ghost Stories.
You can find it on Amazon and at jimharold.com.
Yes.
So there you go.
Great.
It's a wonderful book. I can picture everybody buying it and reading it in front of a place or a campfire. It's wonderful. And then where do people call you on your show? How do they do that?
jimharold.com/campfire, and they can find the podcast wherever they get their podcast. Just type in Jim Harold, and I recommend everybody starts with the Campfire. That seems to be the one that people gravitate towards and really has the broadest appeal. So I would check out that right there in your favorite podcast app.
Yes,
Sounds
that's
great.
Fantastic. Oh my God, this is great. Is there going to be a number 7? Should we ask?
Oh yeah. Yeah, next year.
Good job. Good job.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, a wonderful Halloween present and also a wonderful Christmas present for people who want to
Definitely.
know more about ghosts and stories. You've got it going on, Jim. This is wonderful. We really
Thank you so much. It's been a privilege to be with both of you.
well, it's
Our
great.
delight.
Great.
Our delight.
Enjoying your company here tonight. And you are the first guest of Spooky October. We will be continuing the spooky theme all month long, bringing in guests to tell us their spooky stories. So anyways, again, Jim, thank you so very much. It's been great. Everybody, True Ghost Stories, number 6. Pick it up.
And happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Stay spooky.
Happy Halloween. We'll be back next week, everybody, with another great show. Until then, we'll see you on the Blue Highway. Good night, everyone.
Good night.